It's multidimensional. A lot of social determinants of health, what we kind of think of root causes, such as racism, poverty, education, income inequality, we see at a higher proportion, I believe, in our county and within the city of Cleveland than in some other places throughout the country in the state of Ohio.
We all know that place matters. We all know that where you live determines how healthy you're going to be. And when we look at social determinants of health, we're looking way beyond medical. Way beyond medical, because clearly infant mortality is not medically explained all the time.
As prematurity is the leading cause of infant mortality, we know that that's the biggest opportunity to address the health of mom before she becomes pregnant. And that's when we consider things like housing, access to jobs, resources, neighborhood conditions, the quality of the education that families have access to, but it's really those social determinants that get at preterm birth. So how can we ensure that all of our moms are healthy, and fathers, before even getting pregnant? So that's through the entire life course, early childhood all the way up through childbearing age.
When I think about the way of life in America and how different it is depending on who you are, the color of your skin, your religion, your sexual orientation, how different everything can be based on one factor. It's just one of those things that we don't apply to health the way that we should. And I think that if we did, we might change how we view a lot of single determinants of our, social being.
We are disproportionately affected by this problem, so that nationwide, black babies die at 2 times the rate of white babies. In the state of Ohio, it's like 2.3 times the rate of white babies. The most dominant narrative that exists nationally, and certainly the most dominant narrative in the state of Ohio, is that black babies die more commonly than white babies during the first year of life because of some group level flaws amongst those of us who are African American. So that there is this compelling interest on my part to tell a different story about this, to help people understand that there are some other explanations for why this disparity exists in our state and in this country.
It's not about a group of people being selectively inferior. It really is about providing the circles of support that are rich in social fabric, that are rich in healthy environment, and that are rich in economic support.
Slavery began in the United States in 1619. There were 246 years of slavery, followed by another 99 years of Jim Crow. And those 2 periods of time together account for 87% of the African American experience. It's only been 51 years since the Civil Rights Act, only 13% of the time since slavery began, and even since the Civil Rights Act, I would suggest to you that the playing field has never been fair. So that when we compare blacks and whites and how well we're doing, not only in terms of infant mortality, but in poverty rates, graduation rates, unemployment rates, etc., in almost every category you look to compare, blacks, of course, end up in the lower end of those scales. My feeling is that it's not because there's something genetically inferior or wrong with those of us who are African American, it's because of that history. But we don't, when we're in the course of comparing blacks and whites today, we don't do it looking through that historical lens. As someone who's been particularly interested in infant mortality, that historical lens is imperative, in my opinion, for explaining why there is the difference.